Good afternoon. It's a privilege and a blessing and an honor to be here. I'm Pearl Clay. This is a poem for Vincent. I knew who he was. When I arrived in Atlanta at the hot end of summer 1969, I had an afro out to here and earrings down to there. Revolution was in the air and in the blood, at least in my blood. You see, I had grown up in a family of black nationalists, of whom it would not be an exaggeration to say that struggle was mother's milk, so I knew who Vincent Harding was. Before I ever stepped off that plane, caught a cab into town, and had my first fried chicken dinner at Pascal's, I was, after all, Albert Clegg's baby daughter, all the way from the west side of Detroit by way of Howard University, on the move, headed south for the first time, landing breathless and amazed in a city still reeling from the death of Dr. King just a year before. The pain and the sorrow were still palpable here, where so many had called our fallen leader brother, father, husband, loyal friend, beloved son. So many who now walked among us like graveyard ghosts, silent and shaken, doing what needed to be done, but all the while reeling and wondering and watching the sky for signs. I already knew who Vincent Harding was, and some of what Vincent Harding was, but how could I possibly know all? Even while I read the things he wrote or listened to the words he spoke, even when I worked with him and for him, listening and learning every day and long into the night, how could I possibly see the light in him for what it was and is and always will be? How could I possibly know the role that Vincent had to play in our healing, in our rediscovery of hope, that, and joy? Even when I got to know his family and shared food and music and laughter at his house high up on that Fair Street hill, where you might encounter Mrs. Du Bois talking about her husband, or Howard Moore describing his last prison visit with Angela Davis, or any number of artists, activists, pseudo-saints, broken-hearted warriors, and all manner of unforgettable characters in between, all blooming in Vincent's tiny kitchen like hothouse flowers, suddenly released into a tropical rainforest, into a paradise of talk, a wilderness of talk, and a depth of understanding and commitment that made you want to do better and be better and work harder, because being at that house made you understand that you had a right to struggle and a right to freedom, that, and joy. Vincent Harding lived his life deeply rooted in and constantly reflective of his unshakable belief in the possibility of peace. Among individuals, between communities, throughout the nations of the world, he lived his life devoted to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Even at moments when the truth of who we are, in all our terribleness, makes some people turn away, thinking they might prefer a fantasy, a fairy tale, a fabrication, because the truth can seem a heavy burden to bear until you get used to it, until it becomes second nature to you, until you realize that the truth is all there is. Vincent Harding always knew it. Perhaps it was that knowledge that made some people nervous in his presence. Even here in this history-drenched, undeniably Southern place, where we sometimes expect our truth-tellers to understand that it is our way, of course, to tell the truth, especially when we can't figure out any honorable way around it. But always with a little sweetening, a little softening, a little smoothing of any rough edges, as if the truth could ever have any rough edges, as if a lie could ever be an acceptable answer to any real question. Vincent Harding was only interested in real questions, like what is good and why is evil? Like what does it mean to live honorably in a world where our anger and our ignorance sometimes threaten to swallow us whole and spit us out broken and scared, babbling and confused, our fear making us vulnerable to those who crave a baptism by blood, a trial by fire. Vincent Harding was a man forged in the fire of struggle, but shaped by the power of love and laughter and friends and family and spirit. A man strengthened by the moral force of his conviction and humanized by his boundless compassion, aware of and humbled by the part he played in the moment when his country shuddered and sighed and stepped reluctantly into the next phase of our collective history. Because we would not be moved, because he would not be moved, just like a tree that's planted by the water, just like a truth that's crushed to earth will rise again, just like the arc of the universe is long, but it bends toward justice and peace and wholeness, that and joy. Vincent Harding knew that struggle was real, so he loved the sound of the song we sing together. When we finally understand what it means to do something good for somebody, when we dance the sacred dance between the spiritual and the political that is at the heart of any movement worthy of our suffering and our sacrifice, when we know the struggle is a victory in and of itself. Vincent Harding always knew it. That and joy, just that and joy. May he rest in peace and live in the hearts of free men and free women forever and ever and ever.